Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back to Shadow Storyteller, your home for eerie bedtime stories that linger long after the lights go out. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment about what you think might be hiding in the shadows of your own memories. We share stories that make the night feel longer, the air colder, and your heartbeat just a little faster. Tonight's tale comes from the quiet English countryside, but trust me, it's anything but peaceful. Voices beneath the floorboards. What we found under Gran's house in Yorkshire. It started in late October of 2011. The leaves had just turned to rust and fire, swirling across the winding roads of North Yorkshire, where the air always carried a bite of mist and memory. My older sister Lena and I had returned to Gran's cottage for the first time in over 5 years, after receiving a strange letter postmarked with her familiar shaky handwriting. Yet it had arrived 2 weeks after her funeral. Gran had passed away that September, peacefully they said, in her sleep. But the letter, dated a full 10 days after the official time of death, was short and unsettling. Don't trust the cellar. Leave it locked. If you hear them talking, never answer back. Burn this. We didn't burn it. Instead, we stood in front of the old stone cottage in the village of Thistlebrook, a place where the fog rolls in thick and silent, and even the crows seem to whisper. Lena tightened her scarf. I adjusted my camera bag, more out of nerves than necessity. I still say someone's playing with us, I muttered. Gran was losing it near the end. Lena didn't answer right away. Her eyes were fixed on the heavy wooden door. No one knew about the cellar, she finally said. Not even Mom. She was right. The cottage only had 1 floor. No stairs. No trapdoors. At least, that's what we'd always believed. Until that night, the house smelled exactly as we remembered. Lavender and mothballs with a faint undertone of damp stone. Dust floated in shafts of dying sunlight. We moved slowly through the rooms, finding things unchanged. Gran's reading glasses on the windowsill, her knitting basket untouched, the ancient radio crackling static as if it hadn't stopped playing since we were kids. It wasn't until after dinner, while rummaging in the pantry, that Lena found it. A knot in the floorboards, worn smooth and darker than the rest. At first glance, just old wood, but when she tapped it, it gave a strange echo, hollow. She grabbed a knife and pried at the edges. That's when the boards groaned, and something underneath knocked back. The silence that followed was brutal. We stared at each other, frozen. The house held its breath. And then, another knock. This time, rhythmic. 1, 2. Pause. 1. Like a code. Lena whispered. Did you hear that? Did you hear it answer? I couldn't speak. My hands were sweating, my chest tight. Slowly, we peeled back the loose boards, revealing a dark square of earth. No stairs, no ladder, just a rough shaft of soil and cold air, leading down into blackness. And the voices came next. Faint, whispering, childlike. It's cold, come play with us. Lena clapped the board shut, breathing hard. We backed away, but the voices didn't stop. They rose, overlapping, echoing, pressing against the wood like hands beneath a thin sheet of ice. That night, we didn't sleep. The voices continued for hours, never angry, never loud, just insistent. Pleading, familiar. At one point, around 3 a.m., Lena sat up and said, "That last one, it sounded like Mum." I wanted to deny it, but she was right. I'd heard it too, a perfect imitation. Our mother's soft tone, saying our names the way she used to when waking us up for school. "Wake up, darlings, come downstairs now." But our mother had never stepped foot in that cellar. She didn't even know it existed, or so she'd claimed. In the morning, we decided to dig. Maybe it was stupidity, maybe some kind of compulsion, or maybe, as I told myself later, we just needed to know. We brought shovels down from the shed. Lena lifted the floorboards again, and I set up the flashlight. The soil was damp and dense. Every scoop gave off an earthy, sour smell, like something rotting far beneath. We dug for almost an hour before the metal tip of the shovel hit something solid. So, we cleared it gently, brushing away layers of clay and root. It was a slab, carved with markings we couldn't read. Symbols, circles, and a line of letters I recognized only faintly from Gran's old books. Elder Futhark, rune script. Lena ran to grab one of Gran's notebooks, hoping to match the symbols. I stayed behind, brushing more dirt away, and that's when I felt the vibration. It came through the stone, subtle at first. A low thrum, like something turning or breathing. I pressed my ear to the slab. My breath caught, because beneath the stone, I stood completely still, crouched in the damp hole beneath Gran's pantry floor, my ear pressed to the carved stone slab. The singing wasn't loud, not in the way a song plays on the radio or echoes from a choir. It was internal, like the stone itself was humming, vibrating low in a frequency that somehow resonated not just in my bones, but in my thoughts. The melody was sweet, almost childlike, familiar in a way I couldn't quite place. Then I heard my name, not out loud, not in the room around me, but directly in my head, wrapped inside the song. Jamie. I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat, heart thudding violently. Lena appeared at the edge of the hole, notebook in one hand, flashlight in the other. She stopped cold when she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked quietly. "It said my name," I whispered. She didn't laugh, didn't question me. Instead, she climbed down slowly and knelt beside the stone. "I think it's a seal," she said, flipping to a page in the old notebook. The runes matched, almost exactly. Gran must have been studying this for years. She translated a few of the symbols. "Listen to this." She read aloud, her voice shaking. "The gate is sealed in song. The voices protect the boundary. Blood remembers. Do not break the circle." We both looked at the edges of the stone slab. That's when we noticed it. A faint ring of ash surrounding the entire base. A protective circle. Fragile. Old. Partially cracked where we had already dug too far. Lena slowly placed her hand over one of the runes. "It's warm," she whispered. Then the voices came again, louder this time. As if they knew we were listening, as if they'd been waiting. "Let us out, Jamie. You remember us, don't you?" I scrambled up out of the hole, breathing hard. I couldn't take it anymore. The space felt wrong, the air denser, the shadows darker than they should have been. "I'm sealing it back," I said. "I don't care what Gran wanted. This thing needs to stay buried." But when I reached for the floorboards, Lena didn't move. "We can't leave it now," she said. "Gran left us a warning, yes, but also a clue. What if this, whatever it is, what if it's connected to us? To our family?" I stared at her, stunned. "You want to open it?" She didn't answer, but her silence was enough. That night we argued. I wanted to pack our bags and leave Thistlebrook before nightfall. Lena refused. She sat in the living room with the old notebook open, candles lit around her, muttering translations and theories until the fire died down in the hearth. I retreated to the guest room upstairs. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard them. The voices, crawling up through the walls, pressing against the wood. At exactly 2:33 in the morning, the singing stopped. It didn't fade. It stopped, as if cut mid-note. Then the knock came. 1, 2, 3. At the bedroom door. I held my breath. The handle didn't turn. The knocking didn't repeat. I waited. Minutes passed. And then, from the hallway, I heard a voice. Gran's voice. "Jamie, sweetheart, I need your help with something downstairs." I froze. My skin went cold. Every part of me wanted to believe, to throw open the door and run to her. But I'd seen her body buried. I backed away, barely breathing. The voice repeated softer. "Jamie, you always were my favorite." I clenched my jaw. I whispered to myself, "You're not her. You're not real." The silence that followed felt like a test, as if something on the other side of the door was weighing my words. Then it spoke again, still using Gran's voice, but twisted. "Do you remember the summer of '98? The barn fire? You lied to your mother. You let your sister take the blame." My chest tightened. My legs gave out, and I sat on the floor, staring at the doorknob. "How do you know that?" There was no answer, only the quiet sound of footsteps slowly retreating down the hall. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I found Lena sitting on the floor of the pantry, her eyes bloodshot and sunken. The notebook was open beside her. The stone slab had been uncovered again. "I know how to open it," she said. I shook my head. "You've lost your mind." "No," she said. "I've remembered." She held up an old photograph, one I hadn't seen in years. It was us, small children, standing beside Gran in front of the hearth. But something was wrong. There were 4 of us in the picture. Me, Lena, Gran, and a girl. Same height as Lena. Same face. I didn't remember her. "Who's that?" Lena stared at me, tears welling in her eyes. "That's Emma. Emma, our sister." I laughed bitterly. "We don't have a sister." "Yes, we do," she whispered. "Or we did. She disappeared. When we were 6, Gran told Mum she drowned. But we never had a funeral, never saw a grave. Gran made us forget. She made us forget everything." My stomach twisted. The voices, the childlike tones. "Come play with us." Oh God. By evening, Lena had drawn the runes around the stone with chalk. She lit 6 candles in a circle, then sliced her palm with a kitchen knife and pressed it to the slab. I begged her not to. She whispered words from the notebook, words I didn't understand. The stone began to pulse, light leaking from the cracks. The air grew thick and hot. The ash circle around the base began to smoke. Then, with a loud crack, the slab shifted. A vertical line appeared down the center. Then it opened, not like a trapdoor, but like a mouth, a yawning chasm into absolute black. From the darkness, hands emerged, small, pale, childlike, and behind them eyes, dozens of them. Some we recognized, some we didn't. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Lena reached out. "Emma?" A shape rose from the pit and smiled. The figure that rose from the pit wore Emma's face, or rather, a version of it. Her features were pale, slightly distorted as though recalled from a fading memory. Her eyes, once blue like Lena's, were now the color of storm clouds, gray, heavy, endless. Lena reached toward her, trembling. "Emma," she whispered again. "Is it really you?" The figure didn't speak. She only tilted her head, observing Lena with a slow, deliberate curiosity. Then she smiled. Too wide, too calm. That smile did not belong to a child. It belonged to something that knew Lena deeply. Something ancient, wearing her sister's face like a borrowed mask. I wanted to pull Lena back, but my body would not respond. My legs were stone, my mouth dry. I stood frozen at the edge of the pantry, watching as Lena took one step closer to the open slab. From the pit, more voices spilled out. Some were whispering, others crying softly, and a few were laughing. That was the worst part. Lena held out her hand. The thing that looked like Emma reached up, slowly, gently, and touched her fingertips. The candles surrounding the circle blew out all at once. The room went black, and Lena collapsed. I rushed forward, grabbing her shoulders, pulling her out of the circle. She was breathing, but unconscious. Her body was ice cold. Behind me, the pit was still open. The stone had split completely now, and what lay beneath was no longer just a shaft of soil. It was a tunnel, carved with the same runes, lined with roots that moved as though alive. The air pouring from it smelled of wet leaves, iron, and something sweeter, like spoiled fruit. I dragged Lena into the hallway and slammed the pantry door shut. But I could still hear them. The whispers, the scraping, and above it all, that faint melodic humming. I tried to call someone. My phone had no signal. The landline was dead. I stayed by Lena's side the rest of the night, a kitchen knife in one hand and a flashlight in the other. Every hour, the lights would flicker. Every time I blinked, I thought I saw small shapes moving in the corners. Watching, waiting. At dawn, Lena finally stirred. She sat up slowly, eyes wide and glassy. "She's not angry," she said softly. I stared at her. "She's what?" "Emma, she's not angry. She's lonely." "No," I said. "That wasn't Emma. That thing, whatever it is, it's not her. It used her face, her voice." "She remembers everything," Lena interrupted. "She told me things. Things I forgot. The swing set. The frog pond behind the school. The time we made that crown from dandelions and pretended to marry the cat." Tears rolled down her face. "I forgot all of it. But she didn't." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to comfort Lena. Part of me wanted to scream at her. None of this made sense. None of this felt safe. "She's still down there," Lena continued. "She's waiting." I swallowed hard. For what? For us to let her come home. By the third day, Lena was no longer eating. She barely spoke unless it was about Emma. She spent hours sitting by the pantry door, humming softly to herself. The tune was the same one I had heard vibrating through the stone. I tried to call our mom. No answer. I considered leaving, just walking out the door, and not looking back. But I didn't. Instead, I stayed. Out of guilt. Out of fear. Or maybe something deeper. A part of me, buried and trembling, wanted answers too. So I read the notebook. I learned that Gran had known about the voices for decades. that the cellar hadn't always been hidden, that our family had sealed it once before, after something happened in 1954. Something no one was allowed to write down in full. Only cryptic entries remained. She came back once. She took the dog's skin and wore it until morning. They sing louder on cold nights. If the child answers, the gate begins to open. The youngest always remembers. One phrase repeated over and over near the final pages. Blood remembers. Blood returns. It was on the fourth night that I broke. The voices had been whispering non-stop for hours. Every room in the cottage felt like it was vibrating. Lena had begun muttering in her sleep. Foreign words, twisted names. The runes in the pantry glowed faintly, even in daylight. I walked into the pantry alone. The stone was still open. I knelt beside it. The air was colder now. Still, as if even the voices were holding their breath. I leaned forward and whispered, "Emma?" The silence stretched. Then a reply came, from deep within the dark. "Jamie." It was soft, almost sad. "Why did you let them forget me?" My throat closed. I couldn't answer. They buried me before I was gone. She thought she was protecting you. "I didn't know," I said hoarsely. "But you do now." I nodded slowly. "What do you want?" "To come back." My skin crawled. "How?" There was a long pause. "Blood remembers. Blood opens the door." I felt the weight of something press against me, like 1,000 unseen hands resting gently on my shoulders. I stood and backed away. That night, Lena disappeared. I searched the house, the field, the woods. Her coat was still by the door, her shoes still in the hall. But the notebook was gone, and so was the slab. It had sealed itself shut. The runes were cold. The ash circle had been swept away. I sat in the pantry for hours listening, but there were no more voices, no more humming, just silence. Until now, because last night I heard something again, not from the floor, but from the attic. Footsteps and a child's laughter. It took me 2 days to work up the courage to open the attic door. I had stayed downstairs since Lena vanished, sleeping on the living room floor with every light in the house turned on, the fireplace roaring, the front door bolted and barred. But no matter what I did, I still heard them. The footsteps overhead. Slow, deliberate, a child's rhythm. Sometimes it was running, sometimes dragging, always between the hours of 1 and 3 in the morning. Then came the laughter, high-pitched, faint, echoing just slightly wrong. I had no memory of the attic being used. Gran never mentioned it. There had never even been a ladder. But the morning after Lena disappeared, I noticed something new in the hallway ceiling. A square panel with a ring handle. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. I stared at it from the top of the stairs, heart pounding. I could still hear the echo of the laughter. Not directly above me anymore, but inside me, like it had slipped past my ears and buried itself somewhere deeper. I finally pulled the ladder down. It creaked like old bones. Dust rained onto my face. The air from above was heavy with the scent of mold, dry wood, and something sickly sweet. I climbed slowly, flashlight in hand. The attic was small, cramped. The wooden beams were warped and blackened with age. Cobwebs clung to everything. But what stopped me cold was the sight in the center of the room. A child's rocking chair. It was gently moving, and behind it, a wall lined with photographs. They were pinned haphazardly, hundreds of them, in all sizes and colors. Some black and white, curling at the edges. Some newer, though faded. At first, I didn't recognize any of the faces. Children, dozens of them, smiling, playing, staring directly into the lens. Then I saw myself. A photo of me at maybe age 7 in Gran's garden, with a red balloon tied to my wrist. Lena beside me, grinning, and next to her, a third child. Same height, same dark hair. Emma. I felt dizzy. There were more pictures of us together. In the woods, at the kitchen table, in matching coats in the snow. Proof, undeniable, that she had existed, that I hadn't just forgotten her, but had lived entire seasons with her. Laughing, growing, sharing birthdays. And yet, every time I blinked, I felt those memories slide away again, like water through a sieve. That's when I noticed the notebook. It lay at the base of the rocking chair, closed and dusty, but unmistakably Lena's. I reached for it slowly, and as my fingers touched the cover, the attic light flickered. Then the chair stopped moving, and a voice spoke from the shadows. "You found us." I turned slowly, raising the flashlight. There was a girl crouched in the far corner, knees pulled to her chest. Her hair hung over her face. Her dress was old-fashioned, stained with mud and ash. I whispered, "Emma?" She looked up. It was her, but older. Maybe 13, maybe more. Her face was the same one from the photo, but stretched with time and grief. Her eyes weren't gray anymore. They were hollow. "You left me," she said. "No," I said. "We didn't know." "She knew," Emma whispered. "Gran knew. She made you forget." "I want to help you," I said. "Then listen." I knelt slowly, heart hammering. Emma reached forward and placed her fingers on the notebook. When she sealed the cellar, she took parts of us with her. Memories, names, voices. I've been in that space for so long, Jamie. Outside of time. And now, it's opening again. Not just here. "What do you mean?" I asked. "There are other places," she said. "Other houses, other families, all touched by this." I looked around the attic. The photographs, the dust, the silence. "What do I do?" I asked. Emma's eyes met mine. "Remember me." Then she vanished. No scream, no flicker of light, just gone. I sat in the attic until the sun rose. Then I read Lena's notebook. She had written obsessively, page after page of runes, translations, dreams she had after touching the stone. She had drawn maps, not just of Gran's house, but of the entire village, with marks on 3 other houses, names of other children, other disappearances. Thistlebrook had a history, a dark one no one had spoken of in generations. There was one final entry. "If I'm not back by morning, seal the attic. Don't let them speak through you. But if you see Emma, tell her I remember the garden, the swing, the apple tree. Tell her I'm not afraid." The page was stained, as if tears had soaked into the paper. I closed the notebook and climbed down. The attic hatch closed behind me on its own. That afternoon, I drove to the village library. It was barely open, dusty and understaffed, but the archives hadn't been touched in years. I dug through microfilm, newspapers, old census records. Children had gone missing in Thistlebrook since as early as 1894. Every 20 years. Always during autumn. always around the harvest moon. They were never found. Names repeated, not always identically, but close enough. Ellie, Emmeline, Emily, Emma. I copied every name, every date, and something strange began to form. A pattern. The disappearances weren't random. They followed bloodlines. Families tied to the original founders of Thistlebrook. The houses built on old earth, pagan ground, sealed soil. My family was one of them. Gran had been the last guardian of the seal, and now she was gone, which meant it was open again. That night, the voices returned, not just in the pantry or the attic, but in the pipes, the walls, the fireplace. They whispered from every crack in the house. Jamie, come down. We're cold. We're hungry. We miss you. Lena's voice came last. Jamie, please. I can't get out. I lit every candle I could find. I circled the pantry in salt and chalk. I recited words from Lena's notebook. The wind outside howled against the windows, rattling them in their frames. The stone in the floor began to glow faintly. I didn't dare touch it, but I heard a knock from the other side. Just once, then silence. It has been 3 days. I haven't left the house. The lights flicker often. The photographs in the attic have rearranged themselves. Sometimes I wake to find Emma's name written on the walls in condensation. Sometimes I hear Lena crying in the hallway. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know this. The cellar is open. The attic is watching. And blood remembers. Always. It's been 13 days since Lena vanished. The village is quiet now. Too quiet. No one speaks of Gran anymore. No one visits the cottage. The neighbors cross the street when they pass. I see them looking up at the attic window, then hurrying along. They know something. Or maybe they've always known. The runes beneath the floor no longer glow. The pantry is cold. Still, but I don't trust the silence. I know what lies underneath. I've seen what waits. Some nights I hear Emma's humming from the back garden. Other nights, I wake up with soil beneath my fingernails and no memory of how it got there. Lena hasn't returned, but last night, I found a note on the kitchen table in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. It only said, "You remembered. Thank you." And underneath it, a photograph. A new one. It was me, Lena, and Emma, standing at the edge of the woods. All of us smiling. All of us holding hands. But the strangest part, I don't remember taking it. And I don't know who held the camera. Thank you for listening to this story on Shadow Storyteller. If you enjoyed it, or if it followed you into your dreams, leave a comment, give a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more bedtime tales that don't let you sleep. Sleep well tonight, if you can.